How do you create a brand that truly represents who you are and the products you sell, as well as building a business that you can scale online? That is what this podcast will help you do. My name is Henry Kaminski Jr., and welcome to the Brand Doctor Podcast.
Let me just make this statement loud and clear. Jersey's here, Jersey's here.
What is shaking, everybody? Welcome to another Brand Doctor Podcast episode. Today's topic is going to be all about telling a better brand story and not forgetting that one crucial piece of the story that, quite frankly, your audience is dying for. Yet a lot of us forget to add this in. So, Oase, how was your weekend, dude? I got some funny stories for you, but before we get into everything, but let's hear it. Any exciting news over the weekend?
It was an awesome weekend, man. I just spent some time with the family and just unwound. Labor Day weekend, the weekend before, I think I was still recovering because it was my birthday weekend. So I was just that kind of rolled over. I was like, you know what, man, let me just slow things down a little bit and
Nice.
and just get fired up for the week.
Nice. Well, I don't know if you noticed last week and maybe even the week before, but it was more present last week than anything. So I have a habit of being a magnet to poison ivy. Last year, I had it all down my leg. I was like, I'd rather get this leg amputated than freaking deal with this poison ivy. And for whatever reason, I know what the freaking leaves look like, and I still happen to get it all the time. So I was weeding a couple days, beginning of last week, and for whatever reason, I got it again. But this time, I got it on my neck and like down my shoulder, right? So it itched like hell. But the horrible thing about the whole situation was it looked like I had a freaking hickey on my neck. like now I got to tell my wife.
That's what I was going to ask you.
Right? That it's poison ivy and me not going to the strip club, and getting a hickey on my neck from, some stripper, right? So I was dealing with that all last week, and I was trying to do my best to kind of cover it. I wasn't using makeup or anything, but like
videos are just like coming up like this.
Right. But it itched like hell. And so now that's all gone. So I'm happy to for that to have passed. But let me tell you something real quick about this weekend. This weekend was interesting. So my best friend, Jerry, we've known each other forever, and he's the one that actually taught me graphic design way back in the day, right? He's now married for 7 years. I'm married 10 years. And our sons are best friends. I mean, it was just a matter of time. It was inevitable that was going to happen. So his in-laws have become an extended part. Well, we have become a extended part of his in-laws family. So big graduation party. Sister-in-law graduated from Penn State. Big shout out to Luann. So they had this awesome party in the backyard of mother-in-law's house, and I played flip cup for the first time in 26 years.
Good refreshing.
Right. So
were you standing by the end?
Right. I was. So here's what happens. I show up and Jerry's all disheveled. My mother-in-law's car broke down. We had to, I'm waiting for the tow truck. And so anyway, I said, you know what? We got to go back to get this car and have it towed back to the house because AAA. Right. So we get this notification. They're going to be there at 5:09. So we shoot over there and we get behind. Now, busy highway. We're behind the freaking car waiting for the tow truck to show up any minute. We get another notification. Tow truck ain't coming for another 45 minutes. Now he's pissed. And I'm like, you know what? We got to do something. We got to just kill some time, right? I said, is there any place to get a drink? So New Jersey just opened up full capacity. So now you could actually sit at a bar. And so he says, yeah, matter of fact, there's this hole in the wall Mexican place right here across the highway. Let's go over there. We'll knock a few back, and then we'll get this stupid tow truck. Now I said, we can't get too wasted. We got to get the hell home. Like we're driving, right? So he's like, all right, well, let's just go there. We'll have a beer and then we'll get back. All right. So we go to the bar. We walk in and sit down. And this place, he wasn't kidding. This place was like a hole in the wall place, right?
Oh, wow.
We sit down at the bar and the record, it's like the Mexican music screeched to a halt, right? And I sit down and he gets a Corona, I get a Corona, whatever. We're shooting shit. And I look down and there's this business card that's glued to the bar table, the bar top. And I'm saying to myself, there's something wrong with this. Like something don't look right here. And I promise, guys, I'm tying this back to branding. And I look down and I go, Jerry, you're going to die. Look at how they spelt authentic. So I actually took a picture of this business card that was like literally taped to the bar top. And instead of authentic, the way you spell it, it was spelled authentic, like AUNTENTIC, authentic Mexican food.
Authentic,
like your aunt, your aunt, right? So I'm cracking up, and I'm like, this is branding at its best fail ever, right? A misspelled piece of marketing collateral. So guys, lesson learned here is make sure all your branding collateral is spelled correctly. And so anyway, we got a good kick out of that.
Now, did it get your attention?
It did, but I'm not advocating for you to spell things incorrectly to get that attention.
And this is intentionally a pattern interrupt, right? Like we do it once in a while. Like if we want to get someone's attention from time to time while they're scrolling up in their feeds.
Yes. So long story short, we get the car back to the house, and I'm walking in and I go, Jer, we gotta pass tonight. We gotta haul pass tonight. You know, we spent 2 hours waiting for a tow truck in the middle of a graduation party. Whoa. So if your wife and my wife are gonna put us to work today at this party, it ain't happening. And so we walked in and our wives knew, like, where the hell were you guys? It's been 2 hours, but I'm like, where do you think we were? Right. So we told them the story about the Mexican place and everything else. So anyway, so let's get into today's topic of conversation. So I was reading this month's Entrepreneur magazine, right? And Jason Pfeiffer does his like editorial in the beginning of the magazine. And he was on the show not too long ago too. Big shout out to Jason. He was an awesome guest and just awesome dude. Like just very transparent, very authentic. Like no wonder why he's the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur magazine. Like he's just got his shit together. I love that guy. But he wrote about telling your brand story the wrong way. And the big problem that people have is they forget this one piece, right? So typical story is hero sets out on journey, hero has major setback, hero overcomes, right? The way most of us tell stories is hero sets out on journey, hero wins, right? There's no trial or tribulation in between.
No struggles.
Because for whatever reason, we don't want to share our vulnerabilities. We don't want to look incompetent, fill in the blanks, right? So I'm saying to myself, this is a great topic to really dive into and to share some vulnerabilities and share some pain points of both of our entrepreneurial careers.
Yeah.
And so after this quick little promo, I want to share a couple stories. I want to have you share a couple stories too, if you're willing, about how we got our asses kicked a couple times in our entrepreneurial journey and how we were able to overcome that. So we're going to dive right into that, guys, right after this quick little message. If you're a business owner who feels your branding isn't truly representing the value that you deliver, check out this free video training that will help you level up your brand's messaging and online presence so that you can start attracting higher quality clients. Visit www.uniquedesignz with a Z at the end, not an S, .net/level up my branding. All right, we are back, and I want to get into some of the struggles of building Unique Designz and building the brand doctor personal brand over the past 14 years. And, you know, one of the things that I talk about a lot is back in the day, I tried to do everything myself. I was the salesperson. I was the money collector. I was the delivery boy when we used to do a lot of print. I was the marketer. I was the designer. I was all these things inside of my business. And I did this for 5 years straight. 20-hour days, barely seeing my wife because I was so exhausted. You know, the only time I would get to see her was like when I jumped into bed, right? And this went through the weekends and everything. And I look back and I'm like, holy shit, how did I do this for 5 years? But when that 5-year mark hit, man, did I hit a brick wall. I hated all my clients. I hated my life. And the worst part about it was me trying to disguise my happiness was like the worst part of it all. And I think there was a lot of self-destruction going on too. You know, I was drinking like a sailor. I was very short-tempered. And like this really affected my quality of life. And it wasn't until I realized like, you burned through all your money. Now you have another problem. What are you going to do? And it wasn't until I finally said, you need help. And the only way that you're going to get through this is if you reach out your hand and accept help. And so we did. And that's how things started to pick up and my mindset got rewired. And, you know, there was a lot of personal development stuff along the way. You know, I had a couple coaches. I had a couple therapists to help me get those skeletons out of the closet because a lot of it is mental always. It's not even so much the tactical and the implementation. It's the mental. Oh, nobody's going to do this better than me, so I might as well do it. I'm in front of the computer. I might as well write the email. I'm right here. No. That's like the worst thing to do. Like, you know your zone of genius. Yeah. So that was one of the things that I wanted to share today was, you know, one of the setbacks I had was having this mentality that like, I'm going to be able to do it all. I don't need nobody's help. Screw you. I'll figure it out myself. And that just kept smashing me in the face over and over and over again. And finally I had 2 black eyes, a busted nose, and all my teeth were knocked out. And I finally said, okay, I need help now. So I don't want to see people go through that. Like you don't have to do that. There's enough resources. There's enough information out there. The one thing you do have to do though is, and I hate to say it bluntly, but like get over yourself. And I had to get over myself before I was able to get to that or could even achieve that next level. So what about you, dude? Everything is Range Rovers and roses with you over there too?
Oh yeah, man. It's been just a beautiful ride along the way, right? Because that's what happens with entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
At least when someone's looking from the other side, that's what it looks like, right? But no, if you are in business, if you have been in business, you know there's always going to be trials and tribulations, even when you have all the systems in place. Something will always show up. And very similar to you, Henry, when it was just me by myself as the independent consultant, as a freelancer, whatever you want to call it, it was the exact same thing. No one can do it better than Oasis. You
And
want something done right?
how did you overcome that then? Because you have a team too. So like,
Yeah.
how are you able to get over that hurdle?
One of the first things was have the courage to recognize that you need help. After having gone through all of that anxiety of, just like you said, getting hit in the face a couple of times and not getting the right types of clients, not, being negotiated with down to the point where your margins are cut down to the
nickel and dimed,
the smallest amount. Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not really making any money. And you're just, again, spending every waking hour trying to finish out a project. And again, once you work out the math, it's really not paying you what it needs to. And then on top of that, your delays after delays. And what does that do? Again, your headaches are now becoming your clients' headaches.
Yeah. And
what does that do for your reputation? What does that do for the sustainability of your business?
Yeah. Your clients didn't sign up for that headache.
No, absolutely not. We are the headache relievers. We're the painkillers.
Yeah.
We're not the pain providers.
Yeah.
So, it's. I think the moment came when I started seeing my clients suffer as a result of my own decisions or my indecisions, my inactions, and I care for my client's success enough to say, you know what, something needs to change, and that needs to be me. That needs to be here.
Yeah.
And that first thing is get some help. Start reaching out to start joining. If I need to join a peer advisory board, let's do that. If I need to hire a coach, let's do that. If I need a business mentor that's either in the same field or someone that's been running a company for much longer that can guide me and tell me, okay, well, you know what, this is how you need to put your processes together. Yeah. And it all comes back down to systems, predictability.
Yeah, systems are huge when it comes to efficiency. And speaking of this actually tees me up for another whopping failure. This is going back now, probably my son's going to be 4. So yeah, it was right before he was born. Yeah, it was right before he was born. It was the summer right before he was born. So like he was born in August, so like July, right? I remember this like it was yesterday. No process in place at all. Barely. I had something strung together with some string cheese and right, but nothing like I have today. And I was busy at the time, but so busy that my processes were being stress tested drastically. And I had 2 disgruntled clients. And it wasn't really their fault, to be honest. Like I look back now and like, yeah, I wanted to point the blame game on everybody else but me. But I realized like going through that, like I had a lot of responsibility for that crack in the system. And to make everything right, I refunded them both in full. And now never mind the amount, all the money I paid my team to get to where we were in the project. So that's all money that there was a couple grand there, right? On top of refunding the client. So I think at the end of the day, it was north of $40,000 that I had to reverse and refund in one day. And to top it off, I wasn't financially intelligent like I am today. So that money that they sent me, that money was spent already. So like I'm 40K in the hole. It's not like I'm 40K. I gave 40K away, and like we're starting at zero. Like, no. I'm 40K in debt.
Oh, shit.
So how do I pull myself out of that? Right? I don't want to tell my wife because I don't want to show her that I'm failing.
Mm-hmm.
I can't go to my dad and ask for help. But there was something in me that said, if you just share your vulnerability with the people that you love and like just admit that you need help again, it is going to work out for you. And so I went to my wife and I told her what was going on. And actually, she couldn't help to know because I got slaughtered on I got slaughtered because one of the clients came at me with all of these negative review bots.
Oh no!
And like smeared my name across all these social channels to the point where Facebook, my Unique Designz Facebook page had to be just shut down because they riddled it with 1-star reviews. Where once that happens, like you can't go to Facebook and say, get rid of these reviews. You know what they tell you? Just go get positive ones to sink the negative.
Yeah.
And so this is all going on. Family members are getting messaged on Facebook saying that I'm a fraud and that I stole 25 grand. It's wild.
Wow.
So I had to come back, and my wife, thank God she's a great writer. She said, you need to go away for the day. Enough is enough. Like, let me write this message out on social. You post it up on all your platforms. And like, it's like sort of a statement of what was going on. So we addressed the situation. And I realized like at that point, this cannot happen again. And it won't happen again.
Yeah.
And so that disaster, and there are some people that have been following me since that day, and they see the progress and they see what I've done thus far. But man, going through that, you feel like saying to yourself, you know what? Maybe this isn't the right career move. Maybe I should get out of this business. Maybe I should just go get a job. You know, these are all the things that are running through my head.
The case of the babies.
Right? And then I just said, you know what, Henry? You're going to fix this and you're going to bounce back even stronger. And so what did I do? I hired a sales coach. I hired somebody to help me strengthen my systems. But first I had to get that money back to get some cash flow going, right? So how the hell did I do that? And so I had to sell some of my personal belongings. That meant a lot to me. I mean, I worked hard for the things that I bought, but I had to sell them off to get the money back into the business. The other thing I did was I did go to my father and I did say to him, here's what's going on. And this is the kind of money that I'm going to need to get back on track. And he said to me, listen, I have money set aside for you for when I die. Now imagine having this conversation with your father at 36 years old. He said, if you need this money now, it's yours. I'll give it to you. I don't need it back because it's yours. But you can't do this every 3-4 years. Because that's not what this account was made or built for. So I said, okay. So he said, how much do you need? And I said, I think 35 grand to get just some sort of money back into the flow. Just that'll get me enough to get going. So he says, all right, here's what I'll do. I can't just take I'm not gonna liquidate a stock or anything like that to get you this money. So I'm gonna give it to you in increments. And so he gave me like $8K here and got that back into the business, invested it, right? Then he gave me another $8K. I think he gave me the third installment of $8K. So where are we at? 24 grand.
Yeah.
Right. And then I told him 35, right? Somewhere along those lines. Once I got the 24 grand, I said, Dad, don't send me to rest. I don't need it. I don't want it. I'll fight my way out of this from here. And so, but what about all the people out there that don't have a dad to back them up? What do you do then? So I consider myself very fortunate and blessed and lucky and grateful. But that was a very hard lesson for me. And then I just said to myself, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to do it to him. I'm not going to do it to my family. I'm not going to do it to my son now that he's here. It's easy to slip back into old habit. So I share this with you guys because this is part of our entrepreneurial journeys that are hard things to talk about. Like I'm getting chills just going back to that day. It wasn't fun.
You know, the overarching theme here, Henry, just like you're taking accountability, and it's kind of the motto in our team now as well, is accountability starts at the top.
Yeah.
Whether it be us leading our teams, leading our business, or leading our families. Mm-hmm. So, and you know, again, you're recognizing that and saying, look, I don't want to put these people that I truly care about through this as a result of my own actions, as a result of my own decisions. So that's, and you know, that's big. I mean, it's a huge transition from where you were before that. So hats off to you, man. I've gone through that exact same thing.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You know, it's tough, but we get through it. We learn our lesson and we move on. You know, there's
Absolutely.
what is that saying? There's no failures, only lessons.
Only lessons. That's right. And
that's,
sooner or later, as an entrepreneur, when you're working, especially when you're working with restrictions, when you and this is through my own, before I ever started my own business, I would say in my entire life, when I was placed into a limited sort of limited resource situation or an environment, that's when the creativity popped up.
Yeah.
That's what it allowed us to proliferate and really figure out our way out and say, you know, I'm going to find a way sooner or later.
Yeah.
And I think that same situation happened with you.
Yeah. For me, it wasn't like, it's not if this works, it's when this works. And that's always been my mentality. It's always been my mentality. Like, you know, now that COVID has subsided quite a bit, you know, I said to myself, it's time to bring back the administrative team. You know, so now I have a full staff like pre-COVID. There's 13 of them now that are working behind the scenes to help me stay in my lane and do what I do. And quite frankly, we laugh on our team meetings on Monday mornings. Like, the busier they could keep me away from all the other stuff, like the emails and the tactical stuff, like the better the project performs. And I tease and I kid. It's not that everything that I touch turns to mush. I'm not trying to come across that way, but it helps me stay in my zone of genius. And I think that is the big lesson learned as I continue to grow and build this business, is how can I stay in my zone of genius as much as I can, so I can delegate out everything else to people that are better than me. Right? I'm working with a client right now who is a genius at what he does. but he wants to build a stronger business acumen around the business, because that's something that has struggled for 9 years. He's been in business just shy of a decade. And just like all of us go through undervaluing our services and letting everybody fly first class, no matter who they are, is something that we need to correct. And so he's coming through the Brand Accelerator program. We're going through the strategy now, and already watching him getting these light bulb moments are huge. But had he just kept going, I think something happens. What do you think, Oasis? Like, something happens around that decade mark where you're like, all right, enough's enough.
Yeah.
Like, am I going to keep kicking this rock down the street and going just going around a big circle, or am I going to throw the rock away and say, all right, something needs to change?
That's right. I've seen it as early as the 5-year mark. So I guess it varies from business to business, but yeah, I mean, it's the business owners, again, it's the business owners that begin to realize that the same can't continue. You know, doing it the way that it worked last year, pre-COVID, fresh on our minds. I keep saying this. What worked back in 2019, what worked up until March of 2020, more than likely was no longer relevant, was no longer going to work.
Yeah. And it's tough to admit. You know what I mean? It's tough to transition. It's tough, especially, you know, the more moving parts you have, the harder it is to turn the ship, right? So I always say, you know, staying nimble, staying focused, staying adaptable is an advantage. Like, for example, this I was telling you, I don't know if it was on the other show or behind the scenes, where this client kept talking about it being a problem for him being a small shop. Like, he kept talking about, oh, well, you know, my shop isn't as big as the thing. And I kept saying, like, you say it like it's a bad thing.
It's advantageous. Yeah.
So, you know, it's gonna change the way you think of things when you and the way you communicate and the way you message, when you start to look at what you think are disadvantages as advantages. And it's all about how you look at it. Here's a great comment from Peter. So, you know, what do people do who aren't as lucky as you or I when they lose everything, sell everything, and hit rock bottom and don't have someone to bail them out? Yeah, I talked about that. What do you do? What do you do?
One thing that I've always been told, Henry, by my coaches, by a mentor, is that you got to work with the mindset that the cavalry ain't coming. Sometimes you got to dig your own way out. And so I have to do that on a daily basis. And it's just a tough pill to swallow, but
it is.
What about you?
So that mentality is very real. You know, I think I've had family members that lost their jobs because of COVID, or lost their jobs and haven't been employed for quite some time. And, you know, I have, you know, my heart goes out to them because I could resonate with it some way, shape, or form. Because when I finish a job, I'm unemployed, right? So I need to have multiple jobs, or at least my ass out there trying to bring in new business all the time. So every time I finish up a job, like, I'm unemployed. I'm not fired, but like, I'm unemployed. So what do I do? Right. And there's been times where, like, I haven't had a new client in 5-6 months. And now what do? Your head really starts to play games on you. right.
Yeah.
And I've been there multiple times. And what happens is this: I sit down and I refocus. I realign. I don't focus on my loss. I don't focus on woe is me, feel sorry for me, everything is coming down on me. You know what I focus on? What do I need to do to get another client? What mindset do I need to be in? How do I get an influx of cash flow in to keep me going? I look for the opportunity. I don't focus on what I don't have. I focus on what I do have.
That's right.
And that's my grit. That's my courage. That's my skill set of communicating with people, being able to communicate with people. I have a lot of credit on the street, if you will. So if I needed to get floated, which I don't ever have to do that anymore, thank God, I could, but I'm not going there again. Like, I hate being in those positions. So I focus on what I have and what are my strengths. And if that means I have to go and do something I don't really like to do temporarily, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. So Pete, moving forward, think about this. Think about your habits that you currently have that may be deterring you from getting into the green and then some. You know, I had a very horrible spending habit. I would spend money before I had it. And then, God forbid, something went wrong, forget it. So now I focused on building that rainy day fund, building an investment account, building affiliate income streams. Like, there's a couple, I have an affiliate income stream coming in that's over $2,000 a month. And I don't do anything but send business to other partners. That's all I do. But I've built it up to where it's over 2 G's. It's almost paying, that alone almost pays my mortgage in full. Right? So I look at what do I need? What kind of revenue do I need to create this in my life? Right?
Yeah, work backwards. Man, a lot of Jim Rohn lessons are showing up in this conversation. Like, every time you're talking about something, I'm like, oh yeah, I just heard this yesterday.
I tell you, honestly, I live and die by that Jim Rohn library audible I told you to go get. Like, for real.
It is amazing. I mean, you know, like just yesterday I was listening to the segment where he's talking about adjusting the sails, not the waves. You know, so as these undulations in the market, these undulations in these fluctuations that show up in the business environment, you've got to be able to adjust the sail of your business, because you're not going to be able to adjust those waves.
Correct.
What's in it? Yeah. And then same thing when it comes to whether it be your spending habits, whether it be generating content, whether it be coming up and showing up for your business, for your team, for you know, someone that you're on a live stream with, that consistency, and it shows up with a sense of discipline.
Yeah, and that discipline needs to be built.
That's what it is.
Yeah, it needs to be built over time. Peter says here, I think it's the rite of passage to have money in the early years. Think it was going to flow forever and spend it all. Yeah, I've been through that too. You know,
it's a crossroad.
Yeah, I'm look at my past success. It's only gone up. It's only going to get better. Well, guess what, guys? There's things called bad years. You think the restaurant business saw COVID come in and prepared accordingly?
And it's not even bad years, right? It could be just a complete change in technology, in the way that clients or customers are now buying, or even looking at the way that you're rendering your services. They may have access to more options, cheaper options, or at least what they perceive as being more valuable in relation to the money that they're paying.
Mm-hmm.
All of those things.
Yeah.
We really don't, and it's as business owners, as entrepreneurs, we have to be open-minded, to have the foresight to look a couple of years ahead and see how much of a rapid change is going to be coming as a result of technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's already there. We're already on Mars. We're competing to get people to Mars. We have automated cars that are driving around. We're living in that.
Speaking of outer space, did you see today Bezos is going outer space today? He's yeah. So his space company, in July, he is getting on a rocket with his brother and one other person who wins this auction, and they're going out next month.
Shit, man.
That's
exciting.
I put an Instagram story out. I go, think he's coming back? Think Bezos is coming back? You think he's making it back?
I don't know, man. I don't know.
Some may call this even suicide. I read that this morning on CNBC. It said Bezos is going on his rocket in July. I'm like, man, this guy's got balls of steel. Elon didn't even do that. And his SpaceX has been around for a while.
Yeah. I mean, he's actually sent people up there, right? At least they have that success case a couple of times now, if I'm not mistaken.
Bezos is going. So that's going to be a super interesting experience. So, man, I could talk about this forever, guys, but I'm going to start to wrap this up. And so I want to talk about sort of bringing this full circle and what the benefit of telling your story in a vulnerable and transparent way is going to really help you with this one thing right here.
Feel like you're about to rap for us, man.
I'm about to spit.
Go for it, man.
You know, one of the things that I really want you guys to take away from this episode is building a stronger audience, building a stronger connection and relationship with your audience. So some of you newbies that are listening to this for the first time were like, maybe like, you know, that guy Henry, I went through something similar. I have a different connection with him now. Had I not shared these stories with you, what would you connect with? If Oase didn't share his experience, how would you be able to deepen your connection with him? So this is what it comes down to, guys. And I say this a lot. If you want to start creating bigger projects, if you want to start creating bigger profits, then you need to start creating bigger relationships, bigger networking opportunities. I say, if you want a 50K engagement, if you want a 50K project plus, because that's where I'm at right now, pretty much, then you need to invest in 50K relationships. And that's how you're going to level up. That's how you're going to level up. And it comes down to that relationship. It comes down to that relationship. And if you're able and confident enough to share your setbacks, share your vulnerabilities, share where you shit the bed, people are going to recognize that. And they're going to connect with it, because you bet your ass there's people out there that went through the same thing. And the more you hold back, the more you're keeping them at bay. And that's how you got to think. That's how I think, and there's different comfort levels. I've gotten to the point now where I can't take any of the shit with me when I die. So if my podcast today can help one person think differently about tough times and how to get through it based on my story, based on Oasis' story, then we did our deed for today. We made this world a better place through our life's work. So focus on that. Understand, instead of being scared to share that story, think about how it's going to help people. It's not about you. It's about them. It took me a very long time to understand.
Yeah, you got to reframe that story in your mind.
Yeah.
Reframe it in a way where you're coming in there to serve rather than to impress.
Yeah.
Rather than something where you're trying to validate yourself or gain their approval in one way or the other.
Yeah.
And again, they'll relate more. And I've found this. I mean, of course, I've had my own struggles in sharing that vulnerable piece of my life. And you'll be surprised how just a little nugget will help someone, and they'll say, "Yeah, I'm able to relate with this."
That's it. And that's the power of social media. It's the power of communication, and it's the power of technology now, where I can stream live now on multiple different platforms at the same time with a live audience, with people that I've never met in my life. And once this publishes, it will go on and serve hundreds, if not thousands of more people that visit this video or listen to this podcast. People don't realize the impact that has on people. I've gotten DMs and PMs from people that I've never met in my life saying, keep doing what you're doing. You don't realize who you're impacting or who you're affecting. And when I get
to that,
go ahead.
I want to add something to that, because this is something that I have just very recently started getting my feet into, right? And there's this huge fear of even wanting to do this, especially like when it comes to video content. You'll be surprised in a matter of a month and a half, Henry, how many clients, who I never have seen or even noticed that they were engaging with any of my posts. Just random people that have picked up their phones or sent me a direct message and said, keep doing, exactly like you said, keep doing what you're doing. I love some of the messages that you're putting out there. Honestly, I didn't even think twice that it would create that sort of a reaction or a response. And it's not for that, right? It's not with that intention. It's just really the intention is that, okay, well, let's put something out there that's actually going to make people think differently, but not for some sort of a spotlight. But it was just, I guess it was a positive reinforcement to get that level of feedback from people that said, look, this resonated with me.
Yeah.
So if you're scared, if right now, if you have that apprehension or that reservation of, oh man, what are people going to think? I don't know enough. These are the thoughts that went through my mind. I don't know enough. I'm just not as much of an expert, or I can't articulate some of my thought processes and what my perspective is as well as Henry. So I don't know if this is for me. And I'm just going to continue to procrastinate set it off another day, set it off another day. Well, guess what? What's that inaction going to cost me in my business?
Yeah.
I don't want to share that number, but
Yeah.
it's definitely, it's night and day difference.
It's substantial. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the power of telling the right story and the true story.
Right.
There's nothing like people are so sick of hearing success stories. They don't connect with success stories because maybe your goal or your ambition or your dream is not mine. Right? Jason talked about when he interviewed The Rock, and he asked The Rock, like, what was a big oopsie in your career? And he was like, when I treated this one fan like a jerk. And this guy waited like all day to like get to me, and like I treated him like a jerk and ignored him. And I'll never do that again. And Jason resonated with that somehow, some way. Jason didn't really get into how, but he said, as soon as The Rock shared that story, I had an instant connection with him because of my own experience. And that's the power of sharing the setbacks. That's the power of sharing failure. That's the power, because that's what people connect to. People don't want to hear another success story. They want to hear a transformational story. They want to hear a story that you got your ass kicked and you got back up.
Exactly. It's more genuine.
Yes. And so, I shared this in a post this morning on Instagram, and like people see the house and they see the cars and they see the boat and all of this stuff, but they don't see the underneath, the underneath of the iceberg, right? They don't know that I was shoveling driveways at 7 years old while my dad ran a snowplow route. He didn't know, like people don't know that I was mowing lawns at 13 years old every weekend when I could have been out playing with my friends. They don't know that I worked 2-3 jobs in high school and created a work ethic, thanks to my dad, that just outworked other people. And it, like, what other people wouldn't fathom doing, I'm like, sign me up. That sounds like fun. I'll give it a shot. Why not? Right? And so there's this attitude. My father also said, when you get a new job, never say no to any of the opportunity that they give you. Like, yo, you want to work some overtime this weekend? Yep. Just do it.
You're done. Yeah.
Right. And that fared very well for me later on in life, because I do a lot of shit that a lot of people don't want to do. And that's why I have the business that I have. But people don't see that. People don't see me living in a shithole of a house for 3 years, begging my dad to move, because I wasn't even, when my parents got divorced, my father we had to move. We had 30 days to get out of the house, and my father had custody of me. So he had to find a place that was going to take a dog, take, a father with a son. And he found this like shithole of an apartment in Long Branch, New Jersey, that I was literally afraid to walk to school, because I had to walk through the projects to get to school. And we stayed there for 3 years until I built up the confidence to tell my dad, like, I don't feel comfortable living here anymore. And so we moved closer to school, which was good. We moved into an old dentist office. So when you walked into my house, to the left, there was actually glass with a hole cut out in it, because it was the reception area for the dentist. Right? But people they don't know that part of Henry Kaminski's story. Right? They don't realize that, like, all that went down. Right? And I go back to that house every year And I'm going to start bringing my son and show him where shit started from.
Keeps you grounded.
Keeps you grounded and keeps me motivated too.
Yeah.
Keeps me motivated too. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. This is a different format that I'm playing with. And I think I'm really digging this format. And I didn't pull this format out of a hat. A bunch of you guys reached out to me recently and said, I really like the talk show style and really appreciate you opening it up this way. And I said, all right, well, so let's do more of that then. You know, I want to make sure that you guys laugh, cry, get mad, and challenge me sometimes. And as long as I'm bringing value to you and challenging your assumptions, I feel like I'm doing my job with this thing. So, any parting words, my friend, before we dip out of here?
Yeah, just keep an open mind to change. And again, for all of us in that are running a business, I mean, I think resilience is more important than anything else. Keep going.
Yeah. Don't give up. There's always a way out.
Yeah.
No matter how deep and dark it may get.
Yeah.
Focus on what you have, not what you don't.
Yeah.
And figure out what needs to happen, what actions you need to take to make it happen, because it all comes down to you. I could have thrown in the towel, always could have thrown in the towel a dozen times already, but we didn't. We figured it out and we got back on the horse and we marched forward.
And no matter how far you go, always show up authentically. Always show up with some authenticity. That's it.
That's it. And people will see your true colors when you share with confidence your setbacks and vulnerabilities. Yeah. Some will try to play it against you and use it against you, but some and most will see what kind of a real person you are. And those are the people you want to do business with anyway. So
exactly.
Have an amazing day, guys, and we'll catch you on the next episode real soon.